welcome to the FCIAC Football Podcast. I'm Dave Rudin, and I'm back after a 2-week hiatus. And as you can see me. Had some issues with sound editing, and didn't like the way the first episode came out, transitioning, getting used to hosting a show by myself. I don't have a Mike Walsh with me this fall, so after a little bit of contemplation, decided to bring this back as a visual kind of podcast, and called on my old friend Cooper Boardman, who, if you go back with me about 5 or 6 years, you know Cooper from his days at Staples, at Syracuse, and now a minor league broadcaster. He's going to help me out, and I appreciate that. And joining me in a few minutes, we're going to have Trumbull coach Marce Petroccio. We actually recorded a podcast 2 weeks ago and had some editing issues, and I'm bringing them back, and certainly in very timely manner, given that the Eagles are 3-0 in the top 10 right now and have a big game with Staples, probably the biggest game in what's a real interesting weekend. So before Marce joins me, just a couple of thoughts. It's kind of interesting how the conversations I have over the weekend, I'm actually writing my upon further review piece right now. And I try to stay away from the football talk on Sundays as best I can, but that's pretty much impossible. And I end up talking to coaches, to reporters, to a whole bunch of people in the FCIAC football world on Sundays. And sort of the theme for yesterday was, what's wrong with the FCIAC? It's down. And I started thinking about it, and well, the league went 10-6. So, if you're expecting it to be 16-0, yeah, it was down, but the league is 20-10 in alliance games in the 2 weeks. So I'm not quite sure what the basis was, other than last year you had 5 or 6 teams at different times in the top 10, and I'm not quite sure what you can. That was last year was maybe the best year in FCIAC history. So I'm not sure what's expected, but I think really the basis for saying the league is down was really the result of 2 games. And that was Darien losing to Maloney and Greenwich losing to Southington. And the way the Cardinals lost, they're up 21-0 early. They looked like they were going to breeze, and they went stagnant on offense. Southington adapted really well defensively, shut down Greenwich's running game. And then in probably what will go down as one of the gutsiest calls of the year, Southington scores a late touchdown, and instead of going for a tying extra point, they run a 2-point conversion, a wildcat play with Evan Anderson, who's a wide receiver, who actually out of the wildcat threw the touchdown pass on the play. They scored 2, they win 29-28, and all of a sudden Southington makes a 2.5-hour bus ride and leaves with a big win. And that really shook up the top 10 poll, which came out today, Game Times poll. I'm looking at it over here right now. And I guess if you only have one FCIAC team in the top 5, then maybe, again, it is a down year, if that's the way you want to look at it. New Canaan's sitting at number 2 right now, and they had a shaky win against Fairfield Prep. They came away with a 14-7 decision despite only 93 yards on offense. And most of those yards came on 2 plays, but Prep turned the ball over 5 times, and New Canaan played terrific defense. That was their calling card last year. I think it's going to be again this year, at least until a bunch of injured players return. And then Southington leapfrogged. I don't remember the last time this happened, but Southington leapfrogged from 6 all the way up to number 1 in the poll. And then you have Shelton 3, Maloney 4, Killingly 5, and then 3 FCIAC teams, 6, 7, 8, Greenwich, Trumbull, and St. Joseph. St. Joseph with a big 24-21 win over Massac, sitting there undefeated. So it's kind of interesting. I voted Shelton number 1 in my poll, and I have New Canaan number 2. I had Southington 5. I moved them up 1 spot, and I didn't move them up further only because I also had Maloney and Killingly ahead of them. And while Southington's win was really impressive, and in most instances, I would have probably bumped them up over a few teams. Maloney came away with the win over Darien, and Killingly had a huge win over Bloomfield. All those teams above Southington had quality wins, so I really, in my mind, couldn't justify bumping Southington up that high. I can't argue with anyone that did, and you look again, and you've got three teams, the top three teams each received 6 first place votes. And then you have 3 more teams that also got first place votes. Greenwich, even though they lost it, somebody voted them number 1, and Trumbull was voted number 1. I think I've been high on the Eagles, and I want to wait and see because their strength of schedule. They've got the big win over Massac, but they've also played West Hill and East Hartford. So I want to see a little bit more body of work, and that would probably be my theme for coming up this week. And I think this week's when we'll really start learning more about who the best teams are and contenders that may be pretenders. You're going to have a Trumbull Staples game that's huge. And if you want to say something's amiss with the FCIAC, amiss isn't the right word. I think what you're seeing right now are the top teams are down a little bit, and the middle of the road teams maybe up a little bit. And so maybe there's not as much of a gulf between the top and the middle, but we're gonna learn more about that this weekend. And 2 games that really interest me. Everyone talks about the top of the polls, so I'll have a story coming out in the next day or so. But you look and you have Fairfield Ward and you have Danbury both sitting there at 3-0, and been a long time for Ward. It's been since 2009, and for Danbury at least 20 years, and we haven't been able to find records. Last time they were 3-0, and they each play perennial top teams. Danbury's going to play St. Joseph, which if depth was an issue, it hasn't been so far. 47 players, there are 47 pretty good players that have won 3 big games. And I talked to Augie Thierry yesterday, the Danbury coach, and he said they're expecting 4,000 or 5,000 people. Danbury's looking at this as their biggest game in quite some time. So we're going to see what you would say right now is a middle-of-the-road team in Danbury going against an elite team, St. Joseph. What happens there? And then we've got Fairfield Ward 3-0 for, like I said, for the first time since 2009. And they opened that season with a win against Darien, and they're going to be playing Darien on Friday night. And again, we got a middle-of-the-road a team off to a hot start that we really didn't expect to be part of the big picture. And Darien, has really struggled on offense. They're 1-2, and their defense has played well. The offense hasn't. What's going to happen in that game? So those 2 games, nobody was looking at them at the beginning of the season and thinking much of them. But they're 2 really, really intriguing games. It's a night, and you got Trumbull Staples. I'd really like to be in 3 places, but I think this is the week we start turning the corner in terms of really being able to assess teams. I still find it difficult because we have disparity in the body of work and strength of schedules, but that's going to change next week and the next 3 weeks. And if the FCIAC's not as strong as it was last year, it's still pretty strong. So anybody who's writing off the FCIAC, I don't know why you would be. Anyhow, it's nice to have this podcast back again. It's nice to do it in a visual form. And as you can see, I'm getting ready for my Giants tonight, so I'm dressed appropriately. And I don't know if he's going to be wearing a cowboy hat, but he's a Cowboy fan. And Trumbull coach Marce Petroccio is going to join me after this break. We're back, and as promised, I'm wearing my Giant hat. He's being kind, not wearing his cowboy hat tonight, even though our teams are about to do battle. But I've been high. I've been reticent to go all out and vote Trumbull as high as I think they're going to be. But it doesn't matter where you are at the beginning of the year. It matters where you are at the end of the year. And that's I'm sure what my guest Marce Petroccio would tell you. So joining us is Eagles coach Marce Petroccio. How you doing today?
Good, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm not 3-0 though, and averaging coaching a team that's averaging 49 points a game. So I would imagine 30% of the way through the season, you're pretty happy.
Yeah, listen, I think the kids have responded, in a great way. They've kept everything in perspective. They keep working hard every day at practice, and we just take it one game at a time. And of course, as you know, this week is a big week.
Yeah, it's I guess home visiting part two. I don't get not homecoming, but you got Staples for the second time ever, and I know bitter memories of your first meeting as against your former school with them. Well, we can preview that game a little bit first, but a nice comeback from a halftime deficit, and then you lost on an interception return for a touchdown in the final seconds, and a missed Hail Mary pass in the end zone on the last play of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that was a tough loss, that's for sure. I just thought that, in the first half of that game, we just were not ready to play football. In the second half, we kind of got it. And I thought we had a great second half. And in the end, we came up a little short. It was a heartbreaking loss, but, the kids really handled it well. I thought our staff handled it well, and we had a good finish to the end of the season. Just missed the playoffs, lost to St. Joe's, and this year, hopefully, all those type of experiences, Dave, are going to help us down the road somewhere.
We actually recorded a podcast 2 weeks ago that never saw the light of day because of some sound hitting issues, but. One thing we spoke about was that Staples game and how you look back on it and kind of, if we had one more win and that could have been it, and the first game setting the tone. And this year, in contrast, you had such a great victory against Massac, that 49-43 wild shootout that you came back after being scored on in the final 20-something seconds. And won, and again, a long ways to go, but so far that seems to have set the tone for your early season, at least.
Yeah, Dave, I think anytime you can come back and win a game, and that game was just an emotional roller coaster. Like I said, I'm going to go to the touchdown club and we're going to order a defibrillator for the sidelines for everybody. But it's games like that that'll help you win. Down the road, I think the fact that our kids didn't give up and they came back, and I mean. 26 seconds, 2 timeouts left, and we were right down the field. Says a lot about the character of our kids. I think when you've got great leaders like our captains, you've got Hunter Agosti, you've got Zay, you've got Jordan Black, and you've got Ben Carley, guys like that. They refuse to lose and they refuse to give up. So I think all that is all part of our process of trying to build Trumbull High back into the program that it once was, and we've taken some great steps towards that.
That was sort of the coming out, the Rowan Johnston coming out party too, with a seven touchdown performance, and he hasn't taken his foot off the gas since.
Yeah, I think in this era of spread football and throwing the ball all over the place, I think when you have the ability to run, in the old days it was the pass. Kind of complementing. You run the ball 50 times and you threw a couple passes and had a lot of success. It's almost kind of flipped now. And for us, the fact that we have a running back like Rowan Johnston and an offensive line that is just doing a fabulous job for us, I just think that, that all that running helps set up our passing game. It helps take a lot of the pressure off the passing game and allows Hunter Agosti to be the type of quarterback that he is, which is, he's a big play, game manager that he can hit you from anywhere on the field. And I just think that, he's done a tremendous job, and all this running game has helped him even get better as we go along.
Yeah, you kind of look right now, and you've thrown the ball 58 times and run it 79. So a game we'll talk about in a few weeks, but yeah, very, very similar to Greenwich in terms of the way the offense has gone. Though your running game is they've been doing it with two guys, and you've been doing it primarily with just Rowan, and when he's running the ball like he is, there's no reason not to.
Right, exactly. I mean, he's a phenomenal, talented kid, and he's a humble kid. He gives credit to everyone on the team, and quite honestly, Dave, one of the reasons why those numbers are skewed is because this kid is scoring from all over the field right now, and you don't even have the opportunity to pass. You don't need to pass because he's taking the ball and is going downfield, or he's catching some of the passes. So, like I said, that all complements what we're trying to do. If we could even get back to close to 50-50, we'd be excited about it. It puts a lot of pressure on the defense when you have to stop both. And I think that's one reason why we're having success. And of course, Greenwich is having success as well, although not as much this weekend.
I remember coming to your practice, and you and I kind of went to sign. You're pointing out a couple of guys to me, and we got to Rowan, and you said, keep an eye on this guy. Nobody knows who he is. Obviously, we've come to find out got injured early in the season and missed almost the entire rest of the season. And you just said, watch this guy's going to be pretty special. And didn't take long for him to prove you right.
No, it didn't. I mean, he's, like I said, he's a really special, talented kid. And again, nothing goes without that offensive line as well. And he understands that, and the team understands that. And they're a very together senior group with great chemistry. And Rowan he's just been phenomenal. His vision, his toughness, his pad level. You don't get Rowan Johnson for a loss too many times. So again, he's as the offensive line has made him look good. He's made that offensive line look good at times as well.
I think in high school football too, a huge advantage if you have a returning quarterback, somebody with experience. And when you have a quarterback as talented as Hunter Agosti, it makes all the more difference. He's completing 70% of his passes already, and it certainly makes you much more dynamic and versatile on offense.
Well, that's for sure. Hunter, I call him he's my like graduate assistant. He wants to go to college and coach as well as do physical education. So I just think, he's like another coach on the field. He understands where everybody's supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there, why they're supposed to be there, and if they're not there, he's going to let them know it. So I mean, he's just been a tremendous leader. And when you have a guy, here's a guy who came out in his first game. It's at Staples High School. There's a couple thousand people. There's the ceremony beginning. There's all this hoopla, and he was just kind of like, I don't think he realized just how big of a game it was. And he knew it was a big game, but it was just the whole atmosphere kind of got to the entire team a little bit. And now he comes out and he said, Coach, everything is so much slower now for me. I can see everything the way I need to see it. And he's a very talented and gifted kid, and he is really quite a leader for us. And when you have a kid back that can run, he can, you haven't even seen his running ability yet, but he can throw. He leads in a locker room. He leads on the field. He leads off the field. That's the kind of kid you want to be the person who's leading your program, and that's what he's done for us. He's a tremendous kid, and he's another coach on the field.
Yeah, he came over. I can't remember which St. Joseph game, if it was the first or second game, where he came over to watch, and I walked over and he was talking to some of the game time guys, and I joined in on the conversation. And he's pretty personal. I remember when we taped the last podcast, I said I'm looking for a co-host. I can't find anybody to do it, and we thought Hunter might make a pretty good candidate to do that. If
there's no doubt. He's a personable kid. He'll be careful, Dave. He might be taking your job. You know what I mean? He's good.
Hey, somebody always nipping on your heels, so
just makes you better. That's all.
That's right. I have to. Well, I'll see him Friday night. I'll have to have a little talk with him. We'll see how the game goes first. And then you've got a bunch of receivers too. Obviously Rowan's been good catching the ball out of the backfield, but then you've got Jack Derland and Luca Antonio, who I know if Hunter's in trouble, just throw the ball real high up in the air, and Luca will probably come down with it.
Yeah, Luca was a kid we recruited out of gym class, who was a great basketball player for our new Hall of Fame member, Buddy Bray, at Trumbull High. And I mean, he's a talented kid. It took a little while for him to get the nuances of being a receiver. He has it now. He's really coming on fast. And Jack Derlin is a kid that you don't really hear about much, but he's a silent killer, man. If you're not aware of who he is and where he is at all times on the field, he can hurt you. Then you couple him with Ben Carley, who we're just starting to get going a little bit more now. And you've got another kid on the other end, a 6'2" kid, and Sam Lapham, who's a volleyball kid and a wrestling kid. I just think, it makes us difficult to defend when you add all that in with the running game with Roan and his ability to catch out of the backfield. And of course, the year that Hunter's having, I think all that helps us. So our receivers have done a tremendous job.
And then defensively, you've got you may have one of the best linebackers in the state, Justin Black.
Jordan Black.
That's okay.
That's all right. There's a lot of names. I get it.
No, that the way that guy chases people down, I don't want to get his name wrong, but he had a great year for you last year. He might have been, if you had to vote for the most underrated player in the state, he would have gotten a lot of votes. And I think people know who he is now, but they haven't been able to stop him. Yeah,
I just think he's a very, very bright, intelligent kid who brings it every day in practice. I mean, 1 week in practice, I had to tell him, listen, you got to back it down because you're going to hurt somebody. I mean, he's just he's a phenomenal talent, great kid, another great leader. Will do anything for you. And he had a hit in that East Hartford game the other night. I mean, he basically depleted the kid, but I mean, he hit him with his shoulder, but they called helmet to helmet because the hit was so violent. But again, he's just another leader that we have, and our defense is coming along. We're getting some people back that were injured for the Massac game, and hopefully, we got to stop a very, very talented Staples team.
Is the Staples game, are you having finally played them for the first time last year? And I mean, it's been a while since you've been there now. Has that sort of the whole Marsh Staples thing, is that kind of dissipated for
you?
Yeah,
I think so, Dave. It's always about the kids, and it's about Trumbull High for us. And I think we'll be talking about the same thing for the next 5 years probably. But the bottom line is that we're 3-0 and they're 2-1, and this is a very important game for us. So whether it was Staples or whoever it was, we're taking it one game at a time, and we're treating every game the same way. So does this game have extra special meaning for us? Not really. I just think that it's a game that we want to win. We don't like what happened last year, and we're going to try and do our best. But they're a very talented team, well-coached team, and this is going to be a big game for us, no doubt.
And with these balanced schedules right now, you don't want to get a loss. You've still got Greenwich, you've still got St. Joe's, you still got some other tough teams to play, and Staples already has a loss with tough teams to play. They have Greenwich also and some other tough teams. So it's a game where you don't want to get an early loss in the first half of the season.
Right, and I think for us, this is a game where we can come out and it's a home game for us, and we've only had one so far. And it's an exciting game against a great opponent, and we'll see. And we're going to see what we're made of on Friday night. That's for sure.
So I want to know your seventh in the game time poll that came out. You got a first place vote. So did you find out who? And six different teams got at least one first place vote. So I don't know. Does he know something the rest of us doesn't, or is he on the Petraccio payroll?
No, well, there is no Petraccio payroll.
No, so I know you don't want to be picked. You'll be very content to stay as low as you can.
Absolutely. I just think the way this schedule's come out with the alliance, there's a lot of good teams that are playing each other. Some are playing early on, some will play later on. But I just think there's a lot of, I don't want to call it parity, but there's a lot of good teams going against each other. I mean, you've got a Fairfield Prep team who's absolutely phenomenal, who's 1-2 right now, I believe. So, in the end, Dave, I think it'll all even itself out. But yeah, it's been an interesting year. Whoever voted us one, that's great, but none of that matters right now. We'll talk about it at the end of the year. That'll be different, but hopefully.
I don't usually share, but I'm writing my upon further review column right now, and it's such a muddled picture. I know you vote in the coaches poll.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much you want to say how you voted this week, or if you want to say who you put number one, but it's such a crapshoot. I put Shelton number one in my poll. Just I had them number two, and they're coming off a quality win. I didn't see a reason to bump anybody up over them, but I had New Canaan second and Maloney third. But
all I can say is this, because I'm not gonna give out the whole story here. But when you're when you are an undefeated team and you're the number one team in the state, and you play another undefeated team early on, and that undefeated team beats you, I think that team deserves a lot of credit. Let's put it that way. And there are a lot of great teams in there. You've got New Canaan, you've got Shelton, you've got Southington, you've got a Maloney team that did a tremendous job. You've got, this Killing League team is coming out of nowhere, and we haven't even begun to discuss the type of year that Ansonia is having, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. So, there's a lot of great teams out there, and eventually it will all weed itself out. You have Naugatuck having a great year. You've got, all these teams from all over the state. So. Right now, it'll change probably every week, but I tell you, the Southington win was a little bit shocking for me, because I do understand how good Greenwich really is, and I haven't watched that film yet, but I will. And these things happen. These are high school kids, and they're 17 years old, and you just never know what happens on any given day. But there have been, you've got St. Joe's, who nobody expected to be good at all. Look at the year they're having. So. You have a game ending. Our game was won with 26 seconds. Massick tries to kick the tying field goal, and it hits the crossbar for 41 years. I mean, you've got a 1-point win for Southington at Greenwich. It's been a crazy, crazy year, but I'm sure it's fun for you guys.
Yeah, I don't remember, and to me, the polls they're fun. They're good for conversation. Ultimately, the games are going to be decided on the field. So. The only poll that really matters is the last one. But I don't remember a week where you've got 5 or 6. Almost all the teams that got a number one vote, you can't really argue about. And almost all the teams in the top 5 are coming off. They beat a really good team.
Right.
This past week. So it's not even where somebody blew out somebody, a bad team or a weak team 56-0. You say we're going to bump somebody over them. Maloney beating Darien, New Canaan beating Prep. It's kind of a crazy week. It's kind of more fun like this when you have all these teams, and you don't really have a number one, and you're going to be scoreboard watching, because all the games are even more important now.
Right. There's no doubt. There's in that top 10, there's probably 8 teams that can all be voted number one, 8 or 9, or maybe even 10 teams. Maybe there's a team that's not even in the top 10. We don't even know yet. It's so early. But the fact that we're actually settling some things on the field, I think that's great.
Well, I still don't. I think this is the week we start learning about things. The one thing I don't know how much you've been able. You're really focused on Trumbull and your opponents, but the one thing that may be a trend, I don't know if it is, it bears watching, is I think the top of the league may be slightly down from where it was last year. And that's not a knock, because last year might have been the best year in league history. But you're seeing teams, Danbury's 3-0, Ward's 3-0.
Right.
Danbury's playing St. Joe's. I talked to Augie yesterday. He said they're expecting 4,000 to 5,000 people this weekend. It's the biggest game Danbury's played in years. Ward's got Darien. The one thing that'll be interesting to see is how are these teams that have kind of finished in the middle or the top half of the lower end of the league in recent years. How does Ward do against Darien? How does Danbury do against St. Joe's? even if they don't win, are they real close games? A possible trend worth watching there, and a trend that's fun. It's nice seeing other teams having success than just the same ones all the time.
There's no doubt. I mean, you've got your Darians, your New Canaans, your Greenwiches. It's exciting when some other teams are starting to get involved. I'll be interested to see. Of course, I'm focused on what we have to do, but I'll be interested to see who wins those kind of games, because those are statement games for these teams that are trying to get back into the mix of conversation here in the FCIAC.
So what do we say? Giant Cowboys for a Trumbull High School hot dog on Friday night?
Sure, no problem. I'm taking the Cowboys.
Okay, I'm obviously I wore.
Yeah, I can see that.
I did offer you the opportunity to wear a cowboy hat.
I'm not a big hat guy though, Dave.
You might be the only person I would allow to come on a podcast of mine wearing a cowboy hat. So that's how much respect I have for you that I offered that. So usually cowboy, you wear a cowboy hat, you're not allowed in my house or something like that. But hey, Marce, it's great. It's great seeing you guys off to a good start, and you're one of the good ones. So
thank you. You are too, Dave.
Always fun having you on, and I'm looking forward to seeing you and Staples. It should be a good one Friday night. So thanks and good luck.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. Thank you for all you do for football. We appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Marce. And that's our new look FCIAC Football Podcast for this week. We'll have a lot of good games, as we talked about. We'll be talking about Trumbull Staples. So have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you next week.